Hi everyone, welcome back to the Geneva Blue Studio. I don't know why I say everyone. There's probably about 3 people who's going to watch this. Um, anyway, quick one today. I need to get through the last letter of the brand name pronunciations. I'm up to the Zs. So if you've watched them all up until now, well done. I don't think anybody has probably, but anyway. The Zs I've only got 3 of them on my list. There's a few more probably that there's out of all the alphabet. I'm sure there's a few that I've missed, and I might go back in a future video and cover a bunch of those. Someone just brought something to my attention that I hadn't spoken about the other day. Anyway, Zs are the following: Zenith, Zenit. That's it in French. I wouldn't say the H in the end. Zenit, and we know all about Zenith. They came out. They were started in 1865 by a 22-year-old Georges Favre, and if you go on their website, they have a section called History and Heroes, and one of the heroes, the biggest hero, is Charles Vermont, who basically hid all the tooling to do the El Primero when the quartz crisis hit and the company went through a few changes of ownership, etc. And they were instructed to bin all of the tooling and the dies and everything for the El Primero. This guy didn't. He hid them up in the attic. It's a pretty big factory. I've been through the Zenith factory a couple of times in La Chaux-de-Fonds. Really nice factory. It's a heritage listed bunch of buildings. Anyway, this guy hid all the tooling and stuff in the attic, and then later on when they wanted them, when the company was got back on track in what 84, they wanted to reproduce or produce the El Primero, but they had to start from scratch. And he said, "No, hang on, we've got everything up in the attic." So he brought them all down, and that gave them a massive head start when they were relaunched. Basically, then they provided that movement to a bunch of brands, Ebel and Rolex, notably. So that's Zenith anyway. Now it's part of the LVMH group. And then we've got Watch Basel, which started out in Basel. I'm not sure if it's still in Basel, but Watch started in 1868. Don't know much about them. They do about 20,000 watches a year. They're 15 people. It's not a massive company at all. And then Zodiac in 1882 in Le Locle. That sort of went through all sorts of ups and downs. It was bought in 1990 by an ex-Tag executive who went bust and sold it to the Fossil Group. It was sold to the Fossil Group in 2001. So I think that's part of the Fossil Group. And that's it for the letters. I'm going to do a quick wrist check. This is a little watch I took delivery of last week. It's called a Firle, and it's basically a British brand from Cornwall, which is where my family's from. So that's kind of why I bought it. Actually, it's a beautiful. I like it. It's a green dial. It's a British racing green. What you call a British racing green dial. It's a very classical color. The old British racing green, when they were sort of a matte basic green, the old Jags and Astons I used to race back in the day. It's almost a khaki, almost a military green, but it has a tiny bit of gloss to the dial. And those hands, it has like a glaive hands, I'd call them, and something we don't see much. Laurent Ferrier does something very similar, and Laurent Ferrier actually does a case that's very similar to this. It's like a galette or a pebble case, a very smooth galette case. ETA movement back. So a basic, beautiful crown, integrated crown, which is basically, sort of inset at the top of the crown. I've got that on one of my Geneva Blue straps. That came with a false or full crocodile. What do they call them? A crocodile print strap, which is pretty average. I've put it straight on one of mine. It looks pretty good. I've used it on a few different straps already. But that's the Firle. Firle's from a name meaning the old forest and the rugged coast of the south of England in Cornwall. I got that on a Kickstarter campaign. I don't know how I came across it. It was brought to my attention. I bought watches like that before, or watch like that before. And this one came up and I thought, I got a decent price on it. I thought, yeah, I'll grab that, basically. It's a lot of bang for the buck. The Firle watches, check them out. I think they're still on Kickstarter. If not, have a look at their website. And that's my latest, basically. Not much else to talk about. There's a new Patek, what's it called? The 6007A. Quite a limited edition Patek Calatrava. Brought out to commemorate, well, to celebrate the opening of a new production facility of Patek in Geneva. And it doesn't really do much for me, that Calatrava. It's got styling cues from a few different that you see in other brands. And that the guillochage in the center of the dial sort of leaves me a bit cold. We've seen that a few actually, that sort of checker plate type guillochage on a few different brands in the last year or so. Has a big motif on the back sapphire, which looks like it's just stuck on basically. So it's a limited edition, but I'm not really a big fan. I'm sure it'll go nuts. It's a steel watch. No other news really recently. The May was a bit of a nightmare for Swisswatch exports. They were down 1.3 million watches compared to May last year. Obviously, COVID-19 had a lot to do with that, and I couldn't get to Geneva, so I couldn't order watches. So my half a dozen watches I would have bought are within that 1.3 million fewer watches they didn't sell. So it's been a bit of a nightmare, and hopefully things are going to pick back up again. Swisswatch sales have been paralyzed, as they say. April, very, very bad month as well. They were down 81%, I think, for the month. So it hasn't been great. I'm hoping to get back to Switzerland next year, obviously. I don't know when. I'm not even going to say when now because it'll be for earlier in the year. Next year, nothing else until then. I'm done these now. I'm going to talk about a few different things on the channel. Probably people have been pretty interested in some of the tools I've made when I was studying watchmaking and doing watchmaking with my piguet. Some of the parts that I've made, some of the anglage, angling work we used to do. And I've got other projects coming up as well. Thanks for your likes and subscribes. Thanks for listening to our podcast, the Fifth Wrist Radio podcast, the Rob and the Regulator Show. Doing another one tonight, doing one in a couple of hours' time with one of our sister channels on the Fifth Wrist Radio. We have a really, really cool guest coming on tonight, a big player in the Swiss independent watchmaking. And we've got a few good guests lined up, but even if we don't, we just have a bit of a laugh, really. So go and see that. Look at my website, genevablue.com.au. Buy some straps. I've got a whole new bunch of straps now. I've talked about them in the last few weeks. And follow me on Instagram, Geneva_blue_ or whatever. Or don't. I don't really care. See you next time.